chat with Mr. Sergeant Poovaiah. Mr. Poovaiah is a product of the prestigious National Law School. He did his Masters in International Law with a focus on information technology from the London School of Economics. Today, he runs his own law firm, Poovaiah and Company. He and his team represent every single major technology player in the country. He was also the chairman of the Karnataka chapter of FICCI. His role was to vibrantly act as the industry government interface. Welcome, Mr. Poonava.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mr. Poovaiah.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Poovaiah, you have been working closely with the Namma Bengaluru Foundation. What motivated you to do so?
A couple of things. I think number one, the entire objective of the Namma Bengaluru Foundation, I think, kindled the interest in me, and I think should kindle the interest in every proud Bangalorean. And second thing, more importantly, was the conviction of the people behind Namma Bengaluru Foundation. Starting from Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar right through every other member of the group. I think the core focus was betterment of Bangalore. The issues which otherwise was not raised were raised without the fear of favor or prejudice, and that I think motivated me, and it indeed gave me a fantastic opportunity to stand up for a particular cause which we believe in. Otherwise, I think typically we lawyers stand up for the cause of others, and this was an opportunity to stand up for the cause in which I personally believed in.
Mr. Poovaiah, is your role just that of a lawyer, or do you assist the foundation in its various roles?
I've really not limited myself to being the advocate or counsel for the foundation from a litigation perspective alone. I've been involved with the foundation's multiple activities. I partake in the Namma Bengaluru Awards very closely. I interact with the senior office bearers of the foundation on a regular basis in terms of policy issues which the foundation would like to charter. And more pertinently, I think Mr. Chandrasekhar has an agenda for Bangalore which he has carved out, and I find myself relating to it more and more, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to actually support that cause.
Mr. Poovaiah, how does Namma Bengaluru Foundation stand apart from the rest?
I think the core difference between Namma Bengaluru Foundation and many other organizations is that Namma Bengaluru Foundation is really not just at the policy level in terms of preaching on what ought to be. I think they have gone beyond the realm of what ought to be and gotten into the domain of saying what is and how do we change what is to what ought to be. A couple of examples I can take is that Namma Bengaluru Foundation is just not looking at the perspective of saying how we can plan for Bangalore, how we can actually make Bangalore a better city in terms of a theoretical armchair approach. It has actually stood up for the causes which I think every Bangalorean will believe in. It is not just doing issues which it believes are pertinent, but it also lends a great helping hand to other organizations without really wanting to be in the forefront or in the limelight, so to speak. One example is the Carlton fire tragedy, when the Beyond Carlton Trust really wanted to espouse the cause in the High Court. It was the Namma Bengaluru Foundation which actually stood up as the pinnacle of support for Beyond Carlton, and that ultimately led to a new jurisprudence being laid down in the state of Karnataka for public health and safety.
That's good. Mr. Poovaiah, you spoke about this Beyond Carlton and how Bengaluru Foundation went to court and sought help for it. You have also filed several PILs on behalf of the foundation. What do they pertain to?
A whole host of issues. I think it pertains to, in a manner of speaking, every aspect of life to which governance will or may touch upon. A few examples I can give is Karnataka, although is a preeminent state in the information technology domain, when it came to public health and safety, we did not even have a regulated, rigid legal system under which public health and safety parameters could be viewed at. Although we had our own legislation when it came to fire safety, pertinent notifications under that legislation were not promulgated by the government, leading to, for example, buildings being built, fire permissions being taken once in the life of a building, and thereafter buildings really withering away in terms of fire safety, leading to issues such as Carlton. Those are litigations which Namma Bengaluru fought, and it led to a situation where specific notifications pursuant to the High Court order were passed. Today the fact is that there is no building in Bangalore which can actually boast to say that we have a fire regulation for law or fire clearance for life. Every 2 years they have to go and submit and get fire clearance, which means every old building would have to go through this process, which only makes life safer for you and me. The second thing is land, for example. Namma Bengaluru Foundation has actually been fighting very vociferously to protect land which belongs to the community. Now it can be government land, it can be land in the hands of government agencies. There is a distinct change. Politicians have stopped grabbing private land, because the minute you grab private land, there is a private interest litigation which comes up, and therefore there is a push and pull. But they actually land up taking land which otherwise belongs to the government, and there isn't a patria potestas or a protector, so to speak, who will voice the opinion for that land. Namma Bengaluru Foundation is in the process of actually litigating on those issues, litigating on issues such as the Balasubramaniam Committee report. Why are thousands of acres of government land not being documented? Why don't we have a master register for government property in this city? How are government lands being given to private interests in terms of trusts and so on and so forth? Those are the kind of macro issues and issues which really touch upon public assets which Namma Bengaluru Foundation is fighting.
Nice, Ms. Puvaya. Ms. Puvaya, you also file RTI applications on behalf of the foundation. Any interesting info that you got through RTI which helped the foundation play its role?
Oh, multiple. And Namma Bengaluru Foundation has actually been in the forefront of using the Right to Information Act to its hilt to usher in transparency in terms of the way our public institutions function. Living example I can talk of is when it comes to road widening, when it comes to underpasses, when it comes to building so-called elevated highways. Whether there is a traffic plan ever considered, whether there is a study, is there a scientific basis as to why the road should be so wide in a particular area and so narrow in the others? Are these intersections and underpasses at the whims and fancies of politicians, or is there a scientific methodology by which it is performed? These are issues on which there is very little information in public domain. Media, for example, you're a senior journalist, and from a perspective, that yes, newspapers such as yours have actually brought this onto the forefront, but very little information is available even for the journalist to take it forward. Namma Bengaluru Foundation has actually used the RTI tool very effectively to bring out information into public domain, so that not just Namma Bengaluru Foundation benefits out of it, other NGOs, other RWAs, other local associations benefit out of it and stand up for the cause. If I can give this example, Namma Bengaluru Foundation is really not being the foot soldier alone. It is indeed the foot soldier. It has the guts to actually go and fight. But it is also becoming the general, so to speak, which supports the foot soldiers to take matters forward. That is one difference between Namma Bengaluru Foundation as an organization and many others. Yeah. I think there is a wholehearted support from this foundation to everybody who is willing to stand up for a cause, irrespective of on whom the limelight is.
Mr. Puvaya, what happens when you don't get the relevant information when you file an RTA? For instance, I have with me, you have asked a question, what is the extent of land that has been acquired by BDA within the limits of Bangalore urban district? No response so far.
It's very interesting that you asked me this question. People generally think that the Right to Information Act has been a fantastic weapon and it's worked very well. As a lawyer, I can say the experience has been otherwise. Whilst the Right to Information Act has worked in certain instances, they tend to work at the lower peripheral instance. That is, questions which are not so controversial get answered. Questions which are really controversial don't get answered. That essentially means that the political system and the power system, I'm not just putting it on the politicians, but including the bureaucratic system, the power system is using the legislation sometimes as a manner, as a facade to prevent information rather than actually usher in transparency. On a larger pedestal, I think Namma Bengaluru Foundation is also looking at actually seeing what sort of changes must be brought into the law itself. But other than that, the specific question here, if an answer does not really come to you on a Right to Information Act application within a particular period, that is 30 days, you have a very specific appeal process which is available. Now, from a Karnataka perspective, the appeal will be to the immediate superior authority. Now, if you have gone to a particular authority within a department, you can then file an appeal to the superior authority within that department, and even if that superior authority does not consider your appeal, you can then go up to the Karnataka Information Commission, which is a quasi-judicial body which is statutorily empowered with powers to actually force the authority to give you that information. We have realized that yes, appeals before the Karnataka Information Commission are fairly successful, and despite the appeal, even if the Karnataka Information Commission does not give you that information, you are entitled to go to the High Court of Karnataka on a writ jurisprudence. I think the benefit is, whilst RTI is a single legislation, the judicial process which is otherwise available in the country dovetails itself to the RTI, and therefore you have multiple appeal process by which you can exert sufficient power or sufficient influence and pressure on the authorities to make sure that they part with this information which otherwise they wouldn't want to.